So today, I'm back at office, right? First day at the summer. So I thought, well, I'll talk more about work after work. Let's talk about, should game developers be good at their own games, right? So for full context here, I used to work at Blizzard, and I specifically worked on the Diablo 3, right? Among other games. So this was very important for context here, because these are the two Diablo 4 devs that really suck at the game, right? I don't want to go into the whole video here, it's 10 minutes long. Probably see it right, because I'm one day delayed here or whatever. Like I said, I just started my work again, guys, so that's why I'm late. And you know, what do you guys think? Have you also started working? I think a lot of people are coming back after summer break today, right? At least where I work, it's like almost everyone is back today. Anyway, let's talk about this thing, which is just silly for so many reasons, right? I mean, one thing I'll say here immediately, regardless what you think about the topic, you know, is it this or woke or whatever, or everything people are complaining about, is it very strange to me how out of touch Blizzard is, right? That's actually, I think we say, is the most obvious thing. It's like, how out of touch are they that this video here is clearly terrible? These two people really suck at the game, and they're also not very good at talking. And I don't say, oh, you talk too much more than that, but I mean, they are not charismatic, you know, they're not like me, they're not rolling the D20 cast. No, come on, these people are boring. They're boring. They are, as people say, right? They look like they are. They were hires, and they suck at the game, and they're bad at explaining game mechanics. I mean, everything in this video is bad. Okay, everything is wrong in this video, right? Everything is wrong. How everything looks, how they're playing it. So, if the one biggest thing I would say is that, yes, why does Blizzard's PR like, oh, this is gonna be great, you know? Do they bait people on purpose? It's like they should have known. Everyone hated it. Anyway, so out of the way, okay, whatever, that's interesting, but it's very obvious. Now, what I really want to discuss here, of course, is should the developer be good at the game? And I keep saying that, for me, this has been a pet peeve for many years. That's why I want to make the video, right? Because, yes, I have experienced this very issue many times, where different developers, artists, and so on, whatever, right? They're terrible at the actual game, and it definitely causes a lot of issues. So, first of all, let's talk about formal and informal language, right? So, this is a concept I bring up a lot on development side, but basically, formal language is, I can tell you something, and you know exactly what it is, without me having to explain what it is, right? So for example, as a table, that's formal language, because you know what a table is, right? It's a table, it's like wood. They have a table here, it has this thing you're standing on, you know, lamp or whatever. That is something you know what it is, right? But if I use informal language, then I have to explain to you, oh, it's like a wooden piece, and then it has 4 legs, or I mean like 4 wooden like that, and then it's like this, and it's like this high. You know, but I have to explain to you, right, what table is, or what a chair or lab is, right, or what's, you know, and so on. So that's informal language, right, where you have to use the word to describe something. And obviously, language is much more effective, faster, also more precise if we know what we are talking about. Right? So a huge issue, I said it many times in my life now for the last 10 years, a huge issue in the industry, people are terrible at games. It really is. And I say it over and over again, they're terrible, the nerd level is too low, whatever, so right. And what that means is that formal language is much harder today in the industry than it was like 10 years ago. So if I tell someone that, oh, I want to make a game like Sonic the Hedgehog, right? Then of course everyone's like, oh, it's Sonic, the fast hedgehog, you're running and doing stuff, blah, blah, blah. Good point. But if you never play a video games, and you have no understanding of, you know, what a Sonic is, right? Now I have to explain to you, oh, it's a fast guy, it's a 2D platformer, or 3D platformer, it's a platformer game. So it's a massive issue immediately. So as you can imagine, when you work at Blizzard, you have to work with these kind of noobs, right? Which are, let's call they're noobs, okay? These two are both noobs, right? Terrible at video games, they can't play a goddamn video game. Do you think they know other games? Do you think they are good? Do you think they know anime? Think they know manga? Think they know comic books? Very unlikely, right? So I think immediately a big issue having noobs like this working in the game industry is that you're asking these designers, which are artists coming sooner, coming to this, you're asking this woman, oh, can you make me this thing, look like this, blah, blah, and you're trying to use, you know, formal language, right? to be more precise, I want a table, right? And she's just like, what a table? I'm like, okay, I want a sofa. What's a sofa? You know, that is the conversation. I've been here exactly many times in my life as a lead designer where I feel like, why do I have to spend like hours after hours explaining to you very basic video game concepts that you would have known if you had played older video games, right? So that's a massive issue, I think, immediately that I think people don't understand when it comes to these like hiring noobs, right? And I'm talking about the character. I'm just calling them noobs, right? You hire noobs to understand anything video games. They have no reference in the brain, right? Like what you're talking about. It makes it so hard to have to work with them, right? I think that's a massive issue here. And thinking about in this video here, they're explaining that they're like, someone designs this thing, and then we swap design and this thing. That's terrible to me, or whatever. But especially if you can't talk, right? If you can't communicate. And maybe you're saying, I'm just guessing and it's wrong, whatever. But I worked here, okay? And tell me, these people here, that are noobs at Blizzard, you can barely talk to them, right? Because they don't understand what you're saying. They don't understand the references. They don't understand this thing. And it's so hard to communicate with these people. And then their work system, like I said, of shopping science, yeah, it sounds terrible. Like it's just gonna be even worse, right? It's gonna be very, very hard having a concrete vision, right? That's one thing I want to bring out first, because that is something that I think people really don't get with the issue here. Now, secondly, right, a big issue, of course, is just generally speaking the actual feel of the game. Right? So I want to bring up the comparison to, of course, the Final Fantasy dev, right? So we have the Final Fantasy dev here, and this guy's amazing right there. This is the combat design of Final Fantasy 16. He's great. He's owning it, right? He's contouring it, video game. So anyway, this guy clearly knows what he's doing, right? And I think that's sort of big difference. And I love that that's on Reddit. People are, fighting about this with devs. So first of all, I hate the coping. People are, but this guy is like the combat lead designer of this Devil May Cry. You can't compare him. He's like the best. Of course you can't compare him. Because why don't Blizzard have the best? I think it's complete bullshit. So Square Enix then have hired this, like, he's, worked on Devil May Cry and all other, action games, right, made in Japan. So they hire him and he makes their game, right? That to me makes sense. That's logical. Why do we have that Blizzard, people are defending it, saying that, but you can't compare them. These are just two, noob designers. One of them has many experience. But, of course, the point is 2 points, right? First of all, Blizzard should obviously easily be able to afford and hire the best designers, right, of action RPG, who live and breathe action RPG. That's number one, right? So the whole reason, this is bullshit. Number two is that, like I said earlier, with the whole PR Fiasco thing, right? But why, let's argue that they have hired, basically, for argument's sake, let's say that Blizzard have hired the best, RPG designer in America, right? Then let that person play the game. You know what I mean? Why do we have these noobs playing the game? Like, it doesn't make any sense. The other way to put it, no, it's not defense of it. They can easily get the same quality designer, right, for the same budget, but in that genre of action RPG, right, and have that person play the game. That's just the reality of it, right? Because it's Blizzard. It doesn't make any sense. Of course, it comes back to what I said in my video last week, where AAA studios tend to hire the dumbest people possible, right? Generally do, I said over again, it's not really about people, you can say they're woke hiring. I don't think the bigger issue. I think the bigger issue is the AAA studios like Blizzard, they're hiring people that they know they can control, right? They're hiring people with the, it's called Swedish, värdegrund, Swedish, yeah. It's called värdegrund. Foundation of value in Swedish, yeah, where basically you hire someone that has the exact same opinion like you, right? And that's something that Blizzard, like I said, the video has a massive issue of. I think that's more a bigger reason than them being like, women or whatever. No, it's more like, instead of hiring up and coming, gutsy, cool design with creative ideas, you hire someone who's gonna follow whatever you're telling them. Right? But regardless, it is a very weird thing. Now, let's point out this thing here. It's very, very important. Is that these people, I hate their titles too, okay? So I am LinkedIn connected, not to these women, but people that are close to them, right? So I could see them immediately on LinkedIn. And then I could find her portfolio, right? We're going to go her portfolio. But I could find the junior designer's portfolio immediately. We don't really matter that much. I'm just going to show it here very, very briefly. But this woman isn't a game designer, okay? Her title is like Associate Dungeon Designer or whatever. And I have to say, I hate that title. I hate that title so much because she's clearly is an artist, right? She's a goddamn artist. Her, the younger person, she clearly isn't a game designer. Game designer, right, is the person that designs the mechanics. Okay, should it be strong? Should it be weak? Should it be, a fast fireball? Or how should it work? Should it be a burning effect? Or, should it be able to maybe link fireballs? For example, like in Baldur's Gate 3, one of the best spells I think is the firewall that you can link to areas. Should you be able to connect some kind of linking fire thing? How should that work? How should you actually implement it, right? So on. That is game design, right? Game artist, an artist is someone that does the graphics, right? The modeling and so on. So you have technical animator, you have different assets creators, right? So you have the level, usually has some kind of level artist, right? That makes the assets and so on. And this woman in the video and also in her portfolio are very clearly a level artist, right? Not a designer, at best maybe a level designer, but not really. And it is really weird. I just want to point it out. I really don't like, when word losing its purpose. That I think, because I know people are hating on these two developers, right? Because they're called, Vogue or whatever. But I think that rather a bigger issue is this meaningless word mumble jumble. Oh, she's a dungeon designer. Does that mean that she's scripting the events, right? Coding the different events in the dungeon? Or she's designing how the dungeon actually works. And I really mean the word design, how the boss should work with the boss mechanics and the enemies and the tightness of how many mobs there are and so on, right? Or does it mean that she's just doing art, right? And in her portfolio, it's 95% art, right? I'm just looking at her own stuff. It's her own portfolio. I'm not looking at Diablo 4. I'm looking at everything she did before Diablo 4, right? And before Diablo 4, she's basically just an artist, right? Which is fine. I'm not saying you're bad because you're, an artist, right? You need a lot of artists. You want to have some waifus. You need art in game development, right? But it's a very big difference. In Japanese, this is called game planner, right? In Japan, you don't call them game designer. You call them game planner and then game artist, right? Whatever. But the same thing there. If I met a person that is claiming they're a planner, then I'm gonna imagine, right, that they're planning, they're designing different contests, whatever, and then they actually aren't planning. They're just doing the art. Yeah, that's pretty weird to me. So I think that's a mumble thing. And honestly, yeah, if it is vocal, whatever, it is probably a big indication there that they have these made up titles, right? That doesn't make any sense. I guess another comparison could be that in UX design, especially in Sweden, people love to mix up UI and UX design. UX design is actual design where you think about the user, you think about the psychology, right? You think about how people behavior design and so on. UI is just the layout, it's just the buttons on the menu, whatever, right? And a lot of people in Sweden, especially then because I'm from Sweden, I know that's very, very common there. There are a lot of UI designers love to call themselves UX, right? But they actually aren't UX at all. They're actually used they're basically artists, right? They're UA artists, but they love to pretend that they are UX, right? Because UX sounds cooler and sexier and it's better on the rest of it, right? So it's a very common lie or a very common exaggeration, right? And this feels like that, honestly, said that to me, that you have someone that's clearly more an artist, but they're presented as a game designer, right? And let's bring that back, right, to the regular video, because the thing is that, of course, as I mentioned earlier, right, me being one of the, I'm a game designer, I'm always the best, basically, right? When I play video games with my colleagues, I always beat them, that's my bread and butter, I live with games, right? So I will always crush my colleagues, right? When I worked at Blizzard, no one's better than me, we played Call of Duty as well, right? I will beat them in Call of Duty. We actually had a Street Fighter tournament, 4, yeah, Street Fighter 4, which of course I easily won, yeah. We had a Street Fighter 4 tournament when I worked there at a summer, what's it called? Jesus Christ, what is it called? The summer party, whatever. You know what I mean? It's typical it's first day of work. Okay, first day of work. Yeah. Summer party, right? For example, I have a party coming now in the future, right? Because now, like I said, I used to come back to work, right? So of course they already asked me. HR asked me, "Oh, do you want to come to the fall party?" You know what I mean? That's how it is, Of course, you're gonna have a fall party, whatever, right? Yeah. That's how it is. So at the summer party, on my Blizzard, we had a Street Fighter tournament. I was the only one playing with a stick too. I was the only one playing with an arcade stick. You're not better with but it felt a little bit like extreme, you know. Like obviously I played a lot of SF tournaments in my life, right? And I've been, you know, so and then I come in the office with my Street Fighter stick, right? And no one has a stick. I mean, I was like, noobs. Yeah, it felt ridiculous. But you get my point. No, I crushed them easily. And honestly, that tournament was hilarious because I picked random every fight because I obviously so much better. So I just picked random and I got like T-Hawk and I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna beat the man. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, baby. But I actually randomized Guile and I used to compete with Guile, so I crushed them perfect. I felt bad. I felt really bad when I randomized Guile and I was like, oh no, not Guile, but my main character. I used to play Guile in SM for them. But anyway. You get my point. As the game designer, you're supposed to be like the ultimate best player, right? That's what you are. You're supposed to live and breathe this game. And it's so important because then you understand, you feel, you understand how the game connects, and you enjoy the game. For example, when I worked on, you know, many of my games in my life, the ultimate best design feeling is when you sit 8 hours, right? After the job, right? And then you get home and you keep playing the game. You know what I mean? Then you are happy, right? So you want to have that, and that is a designer for me, right? So when you have an artist, right? Let's like this other woman, not this woman, other woman. She's clearly an artist, and that is, you know, the artists are always worse players than the designers, right? Basically always, because of course they don't care as much about the design. Because caring about design means that you care about gameplay, right? Because all game design and level design or whatever you call it. Design should come back to, you know, caring about the gameplay experience. So if you're a level designer, you have to care about, you know, where are the traps, where are this thing, how is the boss working, you know, whatever, and all that stuff. So it's a very, very core into, again, the actual core gameplay. So it's very, very silly for that matter. I saw on Reddit where this video was posted, and a lot of comments, right? And a lot of people defending it are saying that, no, but like a level designer doesn't need to know the combat because they do the levels. That is so stupid, okay? That is incredibly dumb because the first thing you have to know to be a level designer is the limitation of the character, right? So let's take a Mario or a Sonic then or whatever, right? Typical Crash Bandicoot, yeah, typical platform game, right? If you're gonna design a Sonic platform stage, the first thing you have to know, right, is how high can Sonic jump, right? How high can Mario jump? Because if you have no understanding of, you know, how much can I jump, right, you cannot put up the platforms to jump it. You know what I mean? Where is this making sense? Think about it. If you think that Mario can jump, let's say, 6 pixels, right, on the screen, but he can jump 11, right? It's too boring to jump over them. That's bad too. But if you only jump 3, you can never get to the platform, right? So as a level designer, you have to be incredibly aware of the limitation of the character, right? Or then the class or whatever, rather in Diablo. So if you're level designing Diablo, no, I wasn't a level designer, I'm more a combat, you know, but still, if you're a level designer, right, you have to be very, very aware of, keen awareness of how much damage, right, can I do? How much enemies can I handle, you know? So you get a good flow, right? You know, you run into your dungeon, it's like, how many enemies can I beat, you know? How many mini-bosses can there be at the same time? How many traps or whatever can it be, right? How much damage should a trap do? Because if you just insta-kill the player, that's pretty boring, even on high level, right? How much damage should it do and so on? You have to be fully aware of, like, you know, health pools and defense points and this thing, right? For example, I'm playing a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 as a part of, right? Which I love, great game. In that game, right, when you get, not spoil too much here, but when you get to this swamp place, the swamp place, it's a trap room in that place, right? There's a lot of gas traps. If you walk into the gas trap, you won't die immediately. You actually probably will die if you go through all the 3 different traps. There's like a lot of traps in like a whole area. You definitely can die there, but you won't die if you immediately walk into the traps, right? Because that would be really bad game design, right? It'd be really boring, you know. So even if you're playing as a squishy class, you won't die on the first trap, because that would be kind of boring. And if you have, you know, perception, you can see the trap, right? But that's boring. And in a similar way, I guess look at StarCraft 1 and 2, for example. Siege tank, right? They do really high damage, and they got really good range. And it's very common when you play either Protoss or Zerg in some of Terran, but especially TOS and Zerg, that you walk into a siege tank, right? And it shoots at your enemy. But a siege tank, it won't insta-destroy your stalkers. We do half their life point basically, right? Which is basically the shields. And that's a good design, because imagine if the shield, if they just died immediately, right? Not just the shields, but also the health pool, all the health. That would make a terrible game experience, even if you would like buff the stalker's damage or something, right? Or whatever to balance it. That wouldn't feel good, because it's like immediate mistake and you die with all the troops. That would be really boring. People wouldn't like that. It would feel, even if it was balanced like that, whatever, Tempest do more damage or whatever. You can balance that, you know what I mean? You can balance that a siege tank can insta-kill anything. You can definitely do that from a balance standpoint, but it's not a good feeling, right? It's not a good feeling that one mistake and your whole army dies, or increase the AoE and everything. Yeah. It's not a good feeling, right? Where siege tanks are right now in StarCraft, that's a pretty good feeling. Yes, they're quite broken in certain situations, right? They're quite broken if you get into good marine tank and push and timing and blah blah so on. But it still feels like if you walk into them, right? Yeah, you lose half your life, you can run out, or you can attack them, right? That's a good feeling to it, where they're very powerful, so they're doing their job, but they're not powerful to like ruin the experience for the player, where they just immediately lose basically. So that's a good point of balance there. And that's how I think about as a level design, right? So defending this woman, say that she shouldn't understand this thing. She's playing this game, right? So insanely bad. She's never played Diablo 4 in her life. And she's supposed to be this like senior level designer or whatever, right? Dungeon designer. It doesn't make any sense, because everything I said now, right? As a level designer or dungeon designer, whatever, you have to have, again, a keen awareness of the limitations of every class then, right? And I said earlier too, right? In another video a few months ago, I don't like Diablo 4, right? I think it's pretty boring, yeah. So, I mean, I think it's better done in so many ways. And the dungeons bored me immensely, right? I said it earlier, I say it again. I played the beta, it was, to me, very disappointing for so many reasons. But one reason was, I guess, this person's job, right? The level design, because it was boring. The dungeons are too big, or they're too, like, sparse, I guess. Like, you're jumping around, running too much to fights. And it's a lot of backtracking, which I really hated. I just played it for the first 20-ish levels, right? And it's like, you're into a dungeon, and it's like, oh my god, it's one of those things where you have to defeat every enemy. Like they had a few in Diablo 2. That's a terrible design. And there's some dungeons that are really big, and you have to kill like every enemy to run like the whole field. I felt immediately like, I don't understand why people like Diablo 4. Immediately. I mean, I can't admit it. When I had to run, the whole map, right? Because I missed like one skeleton, 10 minutes ago. I was like, oh my god, I'm out of this game. Honestly, I found the Diablo 4, the Act 1 was pretty bad, yeah. I didn't like it, right? I mean, it's fun, but not really fun. It's like I said, I could see myself playing it, right? I could see myself playing it. I'm not saying it's the worst game ever, but I just don't see why I would rather play this game over the better games this year at all. And of course, Diablo 4 was released, I believe, in the same day or whatever, depending on letters, as SF6. And obviously, I was like, I'm gonna play Street Fighter. I haven't even bought them before. Okay, I admit it. I only played the first act. That's much I dislike it. Maybe I'm salty, but seriously, I hate this game's level design. I'm not just saying it was a video. I said it earlier because I made a video right when I played the first act, and I was like, this is bad. Yeah, this is bad. I don't like Diablo 4 at all, really. And another reason why, I just want to bring it up here for context. One thing I really hate in Diablo 4, and that was definitely a reason I didn't buy it at all, was that there's no new class, right? It feels so cowardly. Yeah, it's like, why is there no new class? Because as a gamer myself, right, an actual gamer and also a developer, I want to enjoy new, innovative stuff, right? And Blizzard to me are so cowardly, so they can't even bring up a new class, right? I have 5 classes in before. I wanted a new gameplay mechanic with a completely new class. I'm not talking about, having this class for its altercation or the same. I'm talking about, I don't know, a completely different thing, I want to give away some of this for free here, but you get my point. I'm talking about not like reusing or like combining 2 classes. I'm talking about something completely else. I don't know, Geomancer or something. I have some this for that, yeah. Like something else, like Dragoneer from Final Fantasy. I don't know, Jumper, Lancer, yeah, Lancer class. I don't know. some other class. Geomancer is what I want, yeah. I have this really cool idea for Geomancer. I don't want to spoil it, okay? But anyway, you have to be very, very keen on everything around the character, right, to be a good level designer. And I want to point out, though, I think this woman here, right, she's a level designer, right? Also, it's the same title of the woman, or she's senior, but yeah, this person seems to be a little more designer-ish, but they're also probably more an artist, and it is a really weird mystery why Blizzard is like, let's take two artists, basically. The one of them is clearly an artist, 100%, yeah. Like, let's take an artist, and let's have them play the game, which they suck at, and I really want to bring it back to this point, though, but I do think that just because, like he's saying, yes, the game designers are always better than the artists or the coders or whatever, right? Generally speaking, at the game, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be good at the game just because you're an artist, right? So, because I've seen issues so many times where, like, they don't understand what they're doing, you know? They don't understand how to make the art either, because it's just like, but what is that feeling? And actually, it's also true for coders. It's less true for coders. For coders, it's the least important thing, because let's break it down this time. You have coders that can work with something completely unrelated, right, to the actual field of the game, except just being, working, right. So you have a coder level that's working on like ARPG backlog or something. I don't know. They're doing something weird, when the back stack or something. I don't know what they're doing, or network coding or something, right. And there's a lot of coders that are very, very detached from the actual gameplay. So with those people, it doesn't really actually matter, because what they do has like no relevance to how the game actually fits. And I really mean that. It has of course bugs, right, or like loading time, whatever. But imagine if you're the coder that is like doing network optimization, right? Of course, it feels a lot if you are a terrible coder, because the game is going to be laggy and it's going to be hacky on a multiplayer game. But obviously, if you do the job correctly, right? Yeah, okay, the game flows, but it's like, it doesn't really matter in the sense that either they do it or they don't do it. It's very binary, right? But you usually have coders, they're like gameplay coders, right? Game programmers, combat coders, so on. Those people have to also be very, very good understanding of the actual design, right? Of the actual feeling of the game. What you want to accomplish, right? How you feel and so on. For many reasons, but one actual reason is that usually, right, when you have to work on these projects, most coders aren't that easy to work with. Okay, most engineers are not very cooperative, guys. Big surprise. But anyway, I work with a lot of coders which are not very cooperative, classic. And one thing that really helps is for them to understand what is fun and what they should code, because honestly, it sounds like a dumb thing, but trust me, okay? Game development isn't very easy for many reasons, but mostly because people are terrible at actually working, right? They're either incompetent, straight up, or they're very uncooperative, right? And honestly, I have so many times where I have to go to coders and be like, do this thing for me, implement this feature. And they're like, nah, but I'm working on this thing. I don't care. Implement my feature, which is more important. And you have to either be like super bossy, say, do what I want, right? Or I guess your manager, basically, right? Or, yeah, it's just really weird. So, it is a very, very weird, I think it's very strange, because if you work on other companies, that is, to some extent, Scrum usually means people can pick up whatever they want in the backlog. But still, it is like a weird thing where you have to like, can't you use my stuff first or whatever? But anyway, the more the coder then, right? The more they understand how the gameplay should feel and what makes it fun, the better they are at picking the right features to add to the game. And that sounds really stupid. Like, well, yeah, because you can tell them this is the A priority feature, do it first. But trust me, they don't. Okay, not always. It's honestly very, very annoying. But whatever. My point is that they don't. So, but if they also get what is a good gameplay, right? They're better at implementing what you need first, right? So, trust me on that, okay? So, yeah, it's like, what's your source? Trust me. But seriously, it is a huge issue. I've seen it many, many times in my life. Not just with coders, but with a lot of people. Where they're like, they can't like understand what they should do, and then they have too much freedom. And I'm a freedom guy, I like liberalism and freedom, right? But sometimes it's like, actually, this game probably will work better if you just could tell them what they have to do now instead of being like, do what you want this week. And I think there's another video, but obviously game development is very, very free, right? You know, in most game companies, or most, but many of them, the devs or whatever have way, way, way more freedom, right, than they have at other companies, other IT companies, because, you know, game companies are, you know, you get the point. And that means that it's very scatterbrained, so people have a very hard trouble doing the same thing, right? But if you get everyone on like, oh, this is what makes a video game fun, it really, really helps. So yeah, when you work in a studio where everyone loves the genre, whatever, it's much easier. And that's, for that matter, I think it's interesting too, because I worked on. It is very strange, honestly, in my opinion, where you have any kind of person, artist, whatever, designer, and they work on a video game and they don't even like that genre, okay? I've said it many, many times. Not only isn't their favorite genre, I work with people, for example, on a strategy game where they hate strategy and only play FPS. I mean, I'm just like, oh my god, yeah, it's so hard to work with those people. So they aren't even like noobs per se, right? They're actually hardcore gamers, but they just hate your genre that you are developing, and you're like, oh my god, can I get another guy for this thing? Yeah, it is so annoying, guys. Okay, it's so annoying. But anyway, end of the day, yeah, you have to understand the game you are working on, right? So it's very important to actually enjoy what you are working on. And also, think about it that way too, right? If you actually love your design, right? Or design, but if you love your game, you know, or your genre, right? If you live and breathe, in this case then, action, RPG, hack and slash, right? You also will probably do a better job, speaking, better coding, better art or whatever, because you really care about it, right? These two people here that are showing us that have no idea how the game works, do you think they're that invested into the game? Of course they aren't, because they don't actually care that much. They claim they do, but we all know they don't, right? We all know they don't, because they don't even like their own game. And people are gonna say, no, but they're just bad. No, they don't like. Okay, if they like the game they're working on, they will be good at it. You know, don't even that coping of, oh, but she probably still likes it. She just happens to be bad. That's not a thing, okay? People that work on a video game and they really love it, you know, they are so good at it, right? Because think about it, it's a dream job, you know. You can work on a video game and you love the actual game, you love the genre, and you can play test and game test and so on for paid. Those people are very good at game, you know. Typical QA guys that are loving the actual game, because trust me, most QA hate the game too. But you know, the QA guys that are working on their own favorite game, favorite genre, they're amazing at the game, right? Because they get paid to do it. And if you're an artist or then a quest, whatever, no, dungeon designer, an artist, I guess, you will still play it a lot, right? And you have to think about it. You work for this game, for this woman here, worked in this game for like years, right? You know, she has years on her to play test Diablo 4, and she's like playing on like a noob scrub level, right? She should be like grandmaster level by now, right? If she actually liked the game. And I stand by saying that it doesn't make any sense how you can work on a game for so many years and still have like barely no understanding of it, right? So you can't just defend and say that, oh, but she's like a level designer or, you know, a level artist and blah blah blah. But it doesn't make any sense, because, or last thing I say here, for example, when I was on my last game, every Friday we would have play tests, right? When I mean everyone in the studio just plays the game for like a few hours. And it's not the same thing as like game testing, which is more like QA hunt, right? Play testing is more like what is fun, you know? Test the new characters, test the new class, new ability, new magic, you know what I mean? So if you just play the game, right, for like from like 3 o'clock to like 5 o'clock, like, you know, and then everyone goes home, you know what I mean? So it's just like kind of the last, you just run through the thing, right? Test the new build. They do it every Friday. Everyone has to play the game, you know, and, you know, multiplayer or whatever, and play different stuff. And it's not about finding bugs, right? It's about more discussing, to some extent, I guess, balance, I guess, but more so, you know, oh, do you like this new hero, right? How does it feel, you know? We have, you know, the game is still in before closed beta or alpha, so we don't have it up yet. What do you guys feel about? Because one thing I have to say, sorry if I'm scatterbrained, but the point is that when you're working on this thing, right? When a game is released, you know, you might have, say, 50 heroes, and then you're coming with one new, you know, in next patch or whatever. So that's like a one, how does this hero feel, right? But when you're working on a game, let's say 2 years prior, you might have 20 heroes, right? And 10 of them are a lot more, you know, experimental. Like 10 of them, the 20, so 20, yeah, 10 of them, half of them, are like they are set in stone. This is the main character, and you know they did what they did. But the other 10 are kind of like, oh, maybe she should have a teleport, maybe she should have this thing right. So it's a lot that isn't like about finding bugs or whatever. It's more like maybe she's weird with teleport. Okay, next build we're gonna change so he gets teleport instead. So there's a lot more experimenting and so on. But anyway, we force everyone basically to play, test the game together, right, for like 2-3 hours on Fridays, right? Every Friday for like 2 years, right? Or 3 years, right? Bam, 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 right? And so that's also in my head the reason I'm not buying this, right? Because if she actually is on the part of caring about the game, which I decided should do, right, she should have play tested Diablo 4 for like 2-3 hours every Friday or whatever, but usually Friday, right? Because they have the latest build, right? Every Friday for like 2-3 years, How many hours isn't that? It's like maybe she works about 40 hours per year at least, right? So that's like 40 times at least 2, that's 80 hours, 2 years. That's 160 hours should have played this game by just play testing it, right? If she actually play test, that's bare minimum, right? Because I'm thinking about play testing here for everyone, for the coders, for the artists, me as I mentioned, right? In my strategy game that I worked on, I played that game only, and this is my personal Steam account, not my game in my over almost 2,000 hours, right? That's a designer account. Yeah, you play that game for a lot because you play the game like 40 hours a week for like a year, right? Yeah, that's what I expect from a designer, right? To have played the game 10 plus hours every week for 2 years, right? Yeah. So, but I think as I mentioned earlier, I think the title is very weird too, because these two people seem to be straight up artists, right? And aren't actually designers. But even so, right? Even so, an artist should have played this game for at least like 200 hours or whatever in her years, yeah, or more than that, right? She worked like 3-4 years in this game. And if we come back to it earlier, if they don't do this, right, that just shows you the Blizzard's out of touch again, right? Because when I was at Blizzard, we would do this stuff, What I explained to you now wasn't at Blizzard, right? But I was at Blizzard. We also would have this kind of system where, we play the game, a little less than that, but yeah, we used to play the game. When I was on COD, we played a lot, yeah. We played COD like an hour every day. So when I was on Call of Duty, like Black Ops 2, we would literally play the game at least 1 hour every day, okay? So like we played, and at the end of the day, we would be like 20 plus people, right? And we'd be just playing COD, we'd be playing COD, yeah, like the whole team would be playing COD for like 1 or 2 hours every day, like 5 days a week, right? In for that duration, right? So when I worked on, I'm also on zombie maps, so like Oregon, right? So when I went in Oregon, yeah, for like half years in that, it's a DLC, it's a half year. Like that's like only in that half year, it's like 5 hours, 25 weeks, yeah, like more than 100 hours, purely from that, right? Yeah, the whole team, So I don't buy it, right? That's something weird to me. Or I'm not buying it. It sounds weird to me because otherwise it still is. Like she should have played this game for hundreds of hours, right? And being like a level 1 scrub after playing a game for hundreds of hours is just appalling, right? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, sorry if it's more ranty than usual or more distracted. I'm mostly like, I'm coming back here, first day of work, the sun went down so the beginning of the video. Whatever, guys. Hope the video, please subscribe, press the like button, and leave a comment below, guys.